Hello and welcome to the next tutorial for the ultimate turn-based battle system for Unity. In this video we are going to take a look at the Create Battle screen tab inside the custom Ultimate Turn-Based Battle System window. Battle screens are one of the most important parts of the visual battle setup because they define how a battle looks and where heroes and enemies are placed during combat. A battle screen can contain the battle background, hero positions, enemy positions, camera setup, battle music, and sorting settings. For this tutorial, we will stay on the Create Battle Screen tab. The Create Battle Screen tab is used to create reusable battle screen prefabs. A battle screen prefab defines the layout and presentation of a battle. This means that instead of manually setting up every battle scene from scratch, you can create a battle screen once and then reuse it for different encounters. For example, you could create one battle screen for a forest area, one for a lava cave, one for a temple, one for a city, and one for a boss arena. Each of these battle screens can have its own background, music, hero positions, enemy positions, and visual style. This makes it easy to create different battle locations while still using the same core battle system. Now let's look at what a battle screen actually does. When a battle starts, the battle state machine uses the currently assigned battle screen. The battle screen becomes the visual stage of the battle. It tells the system where heroes should appear, where enemies should appear, what background should be shown, and how the battle camera is set up. This means the battle screen is not the enemy team itself. The enemy team defines which enemies appear in battle. The battle screen defines where and how the battle is presented. This separation is important because it allows you to reuse the same battle screen with many different enemy teams. For example, you could use the same forest battle screen for several different forest encounters. One encounter could contain wolves, another encounter could contain slimes, another encounter could contain a stronger boss enemy. All of them can use the same forest battle screen while still having different enemy teams. At the same time, you can also use different battle screens for special battles. For example, a story battle could use a unique battle background and layout, while normal battles in the same area use the standard battle screen. Now let's go through the main settings of the Create Battle Screen tab. First, you assign the battle background. The battle background is the visual environment shown behind the characters during battle. For example, this could be a forest, cave, temple, battlefield, city street, dungeon room, or any other environment that fits your game. However, it is also important to mention that you do not necessarily have to use a single background sprite. Because the battle screen is a prefab inside the scene, you can also place additional objects directly inside the battle screen setup. This means you could build your battle environment from multiple 2D objects, props, decorations, particle effects, lights, or even 3D objects, depending on the visual style of your project. For example, instead of only assigning a flat forest background, you could place trees, rocks, animated effects, foreground elements, or other scene objects directly into the battle screen. You could also create a more dynamic battle scene by combining a background sprite with extra objects placed in front of or behind the characters. This gives you much more freedom when designing the visual presentation of your battles. The background or scene setup is important because it immediately tells the player where the battle takes place. A forest battle should feel different from a lava cave battle. A boss battle should feel different from a normal enemy encounter. The battle background and the objects placed inside the battle screen help create that atmosphere. Next, the battle screen can define the battle music. Battle music is optional but very useful for giving each battle type its own feeling. For example, normal battles could use a standard battle theme. Boss battles could use a more intense track. A monster tamer battle could use a lighter and more adventurous theme. A retro-inspired battle could use a chiptune or old-school RPG track. This makes battle screens useful not only for visuals, but also for presentation and mood. Now let's talk about positions. One of the most important jobs of the battle screen is defining where heroes and enemies appear. The Create Battle Screen tab allows you to create hero positions and enemy positions. These positions are used when the battle system spawns characters. Hero positions define where the active heroes will appear. Enemy positions define where the active enemies will appear. To create a new hero position, you can click the Add Hero button. This adds a new hero position to the battle screen setup. To create a new enemy position, you can click the Add Enemy button. This adds a new enemy position to the battle screen setup. Each position represents one possible character slot during battle. So if you add 3 hero positions, up to 3 heroes can be active on the battlefield at the same time. If you add 4 enemy positions, up to 4 enemies can be active at the same time. If you no longer need a position, you can use the Remove button to delete it from the list. This is useful if you created too many positions or if you want to simplify the layout again. Each position also has an order value. This order is not related to the turn order of the battle. The turn order is still calculated by the battle system based on character stats, such as speed. The order value in the battle screen position settings is used for the rendering order of the character sprites. This means it controls which character is visually drawn in front of or behind another character. This is especially useful in 2D battle scenes where characters may overlap slightly. For example, if one hero position is lower on the screen, you may want that hero to be rendered in front of a hero standing slightly higher behind them. The same applies to enemies. By adjusting the order value, you can make sure the visual layering of your heroes and enemies looks correct during battle. So if a character appears behind another character when it should be in front, or the other way around, this order value is one of the settings you can adjust. There is also a reverse facing option. Reverse facing can be used when a character should face the opposite direction after being spawned. This is especially useful for side view battles. For example, heroes might face to the right, while enemies face to the left. If a character is facing the wrong direction in your battle screen, reverse facing can be used to flip the visual direction for that position. This gives you more control over how characters are presented without needing to create separate flipped versions of the same prefab. For example, in a classic side view battle, heroes might stand on the left side and enemies on the right side. In another layout, heroes could stand at the bottom and enemies at the top. A Monster Tamer style battle could use a different arrangement, where the player's active creature faces the enemy creature more directly. A large-scale battle screen could include many enemy positions, allowing more enemies to appear at the same time. This makes the battle screen system very flexible. When creating positions, think about the type of battle you want to build. Should the heroes stand close together? Should enemies be spread across the screen? Should boss enemies have a larger central position? Should smaller enemies surround a larger enemy? Should the layout feel like a classic RPG, a Monster Tamer game, or something completely different? The position setup helps define the identity of your battle scene. Each position is usually represented by a transform or marker object inside the generated battle screen prefab. These position objects are not the characters themselves. They are spawn points. When a battle starts, the battle system uses these spawn points to place the actual hero and enemy prefabs. This means you can adjust the battle layout by moving the position objects in the prefab. If a hero appears too high, too low, too far left, or too far right, you can adjust the corresponding hero position. The same applies to enemies. Now let's talk about active and reserve positions. The battle system supports active heroes and reserve heroes. It also supports active enemies and reserve enemies. The active positions on the battle screen define how many characters can appear on the battlefield at the same time. For example, if your battle screen has 3 hero positions, then 3 heroes can be active at once. If your party contains more heroes than there are available hero positions, the additional heroes will be placed in the reserve. These reserve heroes are still part of the party, but they are not shown directly on the battlefield until they are switched in or used by the battle flow. The same idea also applies to enemies. For example, if your battle screen has 4 enemy positions, then 4 enemies can be active at once. If an enemy team contains more than 4 enemies, the additional enemies can be treated as reserve enemies and enter later depending on the battle flow. This is useful for creating larger parties and larger enemy teams without overcrowding the screen. You can have a party or enemy team with more characters than visible positions, while the battle screen decides how many of them are active at one time. This gives you more control over pacing, layout, and presentation. Now let's talk about the battle camera. The battle screen contains the camera used during battle. This is important because the normal main camera in your scene is usually used for your normal game scene, such as the overworld or exploration gameplay. When a battle starts, the battle system uses the battle screen camera to render the battle. When the battle ends, the main camera can be reactivated. This separation makes it possible to use the battle system in many different kinds of projects. Your normal game could be top-down, side-scrolling, first-person, or something else entirely. The battle screen still provides its own controlled camera setup for the battle itself. The battle camera also has the battle camera focus controller component attached. This component controls how the battle camera focuses and zooms during battle. For example, it can focus on a hero or enemy when they are selected, zoom in during certain combat moments, zoom out when previewing an area of effect action, and reset the camera back to its default battle view. The first important value is combat zoom ortho size. This controls how close the camera zooms in when it focuses on a character or target. Because the battle camera is orthographic, a smaller orthographic size means the camera appears closer. So if this value is lower, the camera zooms in more strongly. If this value is higher, the camera stays farther away. The next value is zoom duration. This controls how quickly the camera moves and zooms to the new focus. A very small value makes the camera transition very quickly. A slightly higher value makes the camera movement feel smoother and slower. This is useful if you want the battle camera to feel more snappy or more cinematic. Next, we have focus offset. The focus offset slightly adjusts the position the camera focuses on. For example, instead of focusing exactly on the character's transform position, the camera can focus a little bit higher. This is useful because a character's transform is often located near the feet or center of the sprite. With the focus offset, you can make sure the camera frames the character in a nicer way. By default, this can be used to move the focus point slightly upward. Next, we have follow strength. Follow strength controls how strongly the camera moves toward the selected target. A value of 1 means the camera fully centers on the target position. A lower value makes the camera movement more subtle, so the camera only moves part of the way toward the target. This is useful if you want the camera to react to selections without moving too far away from the main battle layout. For example, if your battle screen is already nicely framed, you might want a subtle focus movement instead of fully centering every character. Next, there is the AOE hover ortho size. This value is used when previewing or hovering over an area of effect action. Because area of effect skills can affect multiple characters, the camera can zoom out slightly to show more of the battlefield. A larger orthographic size means the camera zooms out more. So if your AOE skills need to show the full enemy group or the full party, you can increase this value. If the zoom out feels too far away, you can lower it. The battle camera focus controller also stores the default camera position and default orthographic size when the battle screen starts. This default view is used whenever the camera needs to reset back to the normal battle view. For example, after selecting a target, after previewing an area of effect skill, or after a temporary focus change, the camera can return to its original position and zoom level. The component also supports a focus stack. This means it can save the current camera focus before moving to a new one. Later, it can restore the previous focus again. This is useful for temporary camera changes. For example, the camera could focus on a selected unit, then briefly zoom out for an area of effect preview, and then return to the previous focus. In most cases, you do not need to call these functions manually. The battle system uses this component internally when it needs to focus, zoom, preview, or reset the camera. But the values on the component are important because they allow you to adjust how the battle camera feels. If the camera zooms in too much, increase the combat zoom ortho size. If the camera does not zoom in enough, lower it. If the camera movement feels too fast, increase the zoom duration. If it feels too slow, lower it. If the focus point is too low or too high, adjust the focus offset. If the camera moves too strongly toward each target, lower the follow strength. And if area of effect previews should show more or less of the battlefield, adjust the AOE hover ortho size. When setting up a battle screen, make sure the camera frames the battle correctly. All hero positions, enemy positions, background elements, scene objects, and visual effects should be visible and readable. The battle camera focus controller can then add a more dynamic feeling on top of that basic camera setup by smoothly focusing and zooming during battle. After saving the battle screen, the system creates a battle screen prefab. This prefab can then be used by encounters. An encounter can optionally provide a battle screen. If an encounter does not provide a new battle screen, the battle system can reuse the previously available battle screen. This is useful if many encounters in the same area should use the same battle screen. If an encounter does provide a new battle screen, the battle state machine can switch to that screen for the battle. There is also a replace completely option. If a battle screen is not replaced completely, the previous battle screen remains available for future battles. This is useful for special story battles. For example, imagine most battles in a forest use the standard forest battle screen. Then one story encounter uses a special unique battle screen. If that battle screen does not replace the previous screen completely, the standard forest battle screen can still be reused afterward. But if a battle screen is replaced completely, then all future battles will use the replaced battle screen unless another encounter provides a new one. This gives you control over temporary battle screen changes and permanent battle screen changes. Now let's look at where battle screen prefabs are stored. The example battle screen prefabs are located in the database folders of the project. You can inspect these prefabs to see how they are structured. The example scenes use different battle screen prefabs to show different battle styles. I highly recommend opening the example battle screens and looking at their hierarchy. This helps you understand how hero positions, enemy positions, backgrounds, UI, and camera setup work together. You can use the example battle screens as templates for your own scenes. You can duplicate them, replace the background, move the positions, adjust the UI, and customize the visual style. In the next tutorials, we will continue with the other tabs of the Ultimate Turn-Based Battle System window and look at how they work together to create complete turn-based RPG battles. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more tutorials and updates about the Ultimate Turn-Based Battle System.